Hey everybody, my name is Cameron, your curious occultist, and I'm here to help people discover their hidden power. And in today's video, we are going to talk about empathy, empaths, what it means to have empathy, what empathy is all about, and how empathy and having empathy, not just for yourself, but having empathy for other people, allows you to understand people, connect with people, and in that connection, especially through empathy and understanding, it creates an own power within itself within you. So with that being said, let's get started. So what is empathy? Empathy, at least by my definition, is having that ability to take your mind, your feelings, everything that is about you, and understand and connect with somebody and their situation and their circumstance and what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and understanding, especially understanding why they would feel and think and act that way. So it's important, again, when I'm making these videos and talking about all this, how I really press understanding yourself. And that's crucial because when you understand yourself, then it allows you to understand other people, which is also part of empathy. And when you empathically connect with somebody, you're able to maintain your identity, but understand why, again, their situations, their trauma, their experiences make up somebody else's identity. And it allows you to really being able to help people while at the same time learning about yourself and really doing that thing which I feel like all human beings really want to do is connect. So I'm an empath myself, and through some of my experience, I've been an empath since I was a kid, and I'm the only boy between two sisters and a mom, and my dad wasn't around a lot. So as kind of the man being raised by women, I learned how to empathize and really connect with my surroundings, so that way through my trauma experiences, I was able to maintain a sort of peace. And that's what empaths do, especially when they're kids, is they connect to the higher chakras, which would be the heart, throat, third eye, and crown, in order to be able to be a step ahead and to be able to mold themselves into other people's situations, so that way if they understand how somebody else thinks and feels, that they know how to almost heal and somewhat control the situation in order to maintain a sense of peace, so that way they're not feeling uneasy or nervous or anxious or any sense of being like that. So you don't have to be a full-on or categorized empath to have empathy for other people. As I kind of explained a little bit earlier, it's about being able to connect with somebody and understand somebody outside of yourself while maintaining your identity. And when we empathize with somebody, it's, again, that understanding of being like, well, I can understand why you would feel that way. I can understand why you would think that way. And when we understand other people and understand ourselves, it gives people a level of comfort and connection and allows us to build any like friendships, relationships, and really solid connections with people that help us and we help them. And so, in my opinion, it kind of creates a better connection and a better community when we do this. Now, also kind of one of the downsides of being empathic is we have a tendency to attach ourselves into other people's boxes or mold ourselves around other people's lives and boxes, that we have a tendency to forget about ourselves. So the thing that empaths have to learn especially is to separate when and also when it's time to connect. Because when we learn how to separate, that's where we find our personal identities and who we are, so we don't lose ourselves in the process. And when we connect with others, again, empathy usually comes in where we can help other people and heal other people. And that's why a lot of empaths are psychics and healers and really connected people. But a lot of people, what I feel like don't understand about being an empath and sometimes going to high amounts of empathy is that we not only open ourselves to connecting to other people's energies, but we open ourselves and create a doorway to all different kinds of energy. We are just more sensitive to the energy around us. We are sensitive to changes in consciousness, which is what the vast majority of people are thinking, because thoughts are energy. And when thoughts are energy, they compound together to make a bigger, greater energy, which is where people have that tendency to flow in mass consciousness with people. Empaths know how to separate themselves from the mass consciousness as well as connect to it when we need to. So there's empaths and people who have empathy really do have a purpose in our life. I feel like we're healers. We're meant to shift things and help change and manipulate energy in a good way, so that way it creates a better balance on the world we live in today. Now, again, I also mentioned a few minutes earlier about you don't have to be an empath to have empathy. And a lot of what I find people doing, especially today, is a lot of people where they feel that lack of empathy or feel that lack of understanding from someone to another is because there's a lot of people doing a lot more talking than there is listening. Now, when you listen to somebody, it's not that you have a choice in your mind and in your consciousness to take it in or to not take it in. This is kind of what I was saying earlier about separation as well as connection. So something I do in order to kind of maintain and balance my empathic power with people is I will, when I breathe in, so like taking a deep breath in, this is where I'm myself and I'm separate. And when I release, that is where I'm connected and in part of the connection of the greater whole of the consciousness. To separate and then connect. And again, having empathy and separating yourselves from that empathy doesn't mean you have to take everything in. Sometimes just listening and really hearing somebody is a way of showing empathy. And this is what also people have to understand, I feel, is you don't have to agree with somebody to have empathy. You can respectfully disagree and you can understand why somebody would make the choices that they would or feel the way they would, but you don't have to agree. And I think that's where people get kind of confused, where they're throwing in words like gaslighting and you're a narcissist and you're selfish, which isn't the case. It's just you get to choose in your own life what you decide to take in personally for yourself and separate yourself from personally as well. So a lot of what, again, that's why, especially with my clients and what I do with a lot of them, is I take that time to separate myself and really, again, like I mentioned in some of my earlier videos, have my value system, my boundary system to maintain my identity and keep my identity safe and protected, because there's a lot of people out here who are going to try to tell you who they are, because in their story you need to be this way in order for it to make sense to them, so that way they feel safe. Now, but this is, again, just to kind of build off of that, is when you're with somebody and they're trying to tell you who you are, again, maintaining your identity is so important, which is something empaths have a tendency to struggle with, because they're like, I know how to be like this for you, and I know how to be like this for you, but what about for me? And I'm a human and I need to have my needs met as well. So, and that's where a lot of, especially empaths, and I've been so guilty of this myself, is I'll put other people before myself just to make sure they're good. And then I find myself looking for the same thing in return with people, and I get frustrated because I'm like, why am I not getting back what I'm putting out there? I'm putting all this good thing out there, and I'm, just putting myself out there and giving you my time, my energy, and I'm not getting it back. And it's frustrating because it makes, especially the empaths who have a tendency to self-reflect and be super critical on themselves when they're still trying to find and maintain their identity, is it causes that self-reflection, and they're like, well, am I like this? Am I, questioning myself and walking that tightrope between self-confidence and self-doubt? And who am I? What am I about? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And that's when an empath especially will have a tendency to reflect and do a lot. And when we have a tendency to do that, again, that's where we're questioning ourselves. We're trying to find our identity. We're trying to find out who we are and what our purpose is. But I feel like, especially in the world we live in today, if we show more empathy with people, which again is understanding, and also not just show it to other people, but also build healthy relationships with people where we receive that empathy back, in my opinion, I think it would make the world a whole hell of a lot greater place. And it would teach us to connect with others, accept differences, understand other people, so that way we're working together instead of working separately. Because, and I will say this and preface it with this, it is just important to be able to understand how to be alone and work with yourself as much as it is to understand and connect and work with other people. Both are important, both are valid, and when you do that, it creates a balance. So that part of the balance, especially in the dualistic kind of world that we live in, super critical, super important, and super crucial. But also, again, having that empathy allows us to understand others so that way we can be also understood. Because especially even through some of the negative experiences we've had where we are trying to share ourselves, like I kind of just mentioned, I would put all of this empathic energy out to other people looking to get the same thing back in return. And I didn't want to have to tell them how to do it, because I was like, okay, you should just know this, and you should just understand this, and you should just get it like I get it. And that is not the case. People legitimately do not understand. And I especially learned that a lot, not just this year, but within the past couple of years, where I'm like, I understand these things and I feel these things, and why don't you understand me? And I understand you, why don't you understand me? And so that's even kind of even why I started to get on this YouTube channel and share this with people. Is I was much an introvert, empathic. I'm still a much introvert, empathic person, trying to share my experiences and help other people connect with other people, so that way we're not fighting as much, but instead we're understanding and accepting differences and realize that they don't have to fit into our world. It's okay for them to have separate worlds, and we can just accept it for what it is and love and appreciate the differences to learn from each other. And I talk about differences and acceptances in my couple of my other videos, which I will share. But empathy, again, I feel would really just get us to super connect with people and understand each other and work together, but also be able to work separately and respect that. And again, having empathy is not also meaning that you're, because you are and you are not super sensitive to a lot of different things. You're sensitive to a lot of the different energies around you, around other people, and sensitive to your own needs being met. So that's where the sensitivity comes from. But the lack of sensitivity is where we have to learn to kind of separate from the connection, as well as connect when we need to connect, separate when we need to separate. And understanding that, especially in empathy and working with empathy, again, is us as human beings, we really want to be understood, and we want people to understand our feelings. We want people to understand our thoughts. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but that understanding ourselves and understanding other people allows us to connect, but it also allows us to separate when we need to separate. Both are important, both are valid, and when we separate, that's where we really truly find our identity. But when we also connect with other people, that's where we can also gather pieces of our identity and understand other people's identities, so that way we can work together and come together when we need to, and also be okay with ourselves and love ourselves unconditionally. So if you liked this video, please, again, like it, share it, subscribe. It really helps me. I hope everybody connects with this. I hope everybody understands empathy, so that way we can connect with others and understand ourselves. And again, I hope the best for people, and try it. Just try some empathy. Try some empathy for some connection. All right. I will talk to you all later. Have a good one.